The company, whose cameras identified some of the members of the hit squad that killed a leading Hamas operator in Dubai, shows off its latest technology. It says new cutting-edge artificial intelligence may soon be able to anticipate a terrorist action. Meanwhile, whether intended or not, the appearance of so many Mossad operatives on highly sophisticated surveillance cameras has provided a catalyst for the sale of Israeli technology to those threatened by terrorism.
It would not surprise me in the least, Colin, to find that the surveillance cameras inside the hotel in Dubai or the software is Israeli manufactured or owned.
Colin Chapman, welcoming you to Agenda. Joining me this week are Fred Burton and Kamran Bokhari. While Dubai police continue to coordinate the global investigation into the killing of Mahmoud al-Mabhouh, 1 hour's drive up the road in Abu Dhabi, visitors to the International Security and National Resilience exhibition examine the very latest in surveillance imaging. The artificial intelligence technology is complex, but the concept very simple. Convert to data bits imaging of terrorist behavior prior to an attack, and when a similar data stream shows up, you know something may be about to happen.
But certainly we can detect certain types of behaviors. The philosophy I would say is applicable is that if, as a human, you could analyze a particular behavior, if you could say that this person is going to do something because of what I can see, then we can program that into the system and you can recognize that particular behavior.
State-of-the-art surveillance technology is also sold by a company called Trapwire, a firm run by former CIA operatives. And two Israeli companies, Senstar and Elbit Systems, are very big players in the game.
The Israelis have been very heavy in this space and post-9/11 environment. They have been selling this kind of surveillance technology and these sophisticated surveillance systems and intrusion devices to a host of Arab nations, to include Saudi Arabia.
Meanwhile, those countries whose fake passports were used in the operation continue to hunt for the killers. Stratfor's Fred Burton says their intelligence agencies have another agenda, building a new and complex database.
There's a tremendous number of lessons learned here from a tradecraft perspective by getting data such as credit card numbers and passport numbers. From a foreign counterintelligence perspective, we would look at those events and say, this is a Mossad methodology. It helps you look for those Mossad agents inside your country as they set up shell companies, as they get identity documents, as they create false identities, and as they travel to and from. So it helps you understand how an intelligence organization like Mossad works. And so you go back to your own headquarters, and from a foreign counterintelligence perspective, it gives you leads to look at as you try to identify those Mossad operatives that are operating in Canberra, London, or inside the United States.
Fred, before you go, a word about security in the Iraq elections this weekend. There's already been a lot of violence.
Everybody knows that there's going to be an elevated tempo of attacks, so there will be an effort on the part of your various personal protection teams to decrease the amount of movements as well as the use of stealth motorcades in light of the fact that we are going into a heightened, elevated risk window here until the elections take place.
So, will this election, as the Americans hope, prove to be a turning point for Iraq, or will, as many fear, entrenched sectarian violence get the upper hand? Kamran Bokhari is Stratfor's regional analyst.
This election will be a turning point for Iraq. The question is, in which direction will the country be turning? This election is shaking up the deck that's been in place in the country since the last election, and just how the various realigned political forces gain access to Parliament in terms of numbers will shape the future. The question is, will Iraq continue to move along as it has in the past 5 years, not improving significantly, but at least not deteriorating, or will there be some deterioration in terms of the political and security environment in the country?
Now, a quick look at what else is on the agenda next week. Greece's Prime Minister George Papandreou is on the move to shore up international support for his country. On Sunday, he heads for the Elysee Palace to meet President Nicolas Sarkozy and then crosses the Atlantic to Washington for a White House meeting with President Barack Obama. Back in Europe, there will be disruption with a number of strikes, particularly in Greece and France. On Tuesday, the delayed START talks between American and Russian officials resume in Geneva. And while keeping an eye on that, Russia's President Dmitry Medvedev and Prime Minister Vladimir Putin will host meetings with Sweden's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister. The Baltic states will be watching these talks very closely. After that, Putin heads for Delhi and talks with India's Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, discussing and possibly signing military deals. On Thursday, many Latin American leaders will be together for the inauguration in Chile of President-elect Sebastián Pinera. At the end of the week, Stratfor will be watching closely for signs of unrest in the Thai capital, Bangkok. The shadow of the former Prime Minister Shinawatra Thaksin looms large there, and there's due to be a string of rallies and demonstrations by his supporters, the so-called Red Shirts. All this and more on www.stratfor.com next week. I'm Colin Chapman. Thanks for joining Agenda.